right here that we're seeing a piece of here at Tandy Hills, and it needs to be restored to a Fort Worth prairie with help of some management processes. Those prairies have taken centuries and thousands of years to build as they are now. And as they are now, they are webs of interactions of many kinds of plants and animals and microorganisms that we don't know all of the connections that are going on right across the street or right here in the front yard. We don't know what's going on, especially in the soil. We probably can identify all of the trees and wildflowers and little animals and insects because they have been studied quite a bit. But if we were to pick up a handful of this prairie soil and hold it up, we would be having in our hands thousands, perhaps millions of different species of different kinds of organisms that we cannot see except by microscopes, and that we don't know what they are doing down there in that soil. But we do know that they are responsible for our livelihood. In other words, we cannot exist without those things we cannot see.
Oh,
the Tandy Hills area, the prairie area, has those things that have been here for millions of years. And we don't know what they are. There are no scientists in Texas, there are no scientists in the United States who can identify those species. The scientists are not studying things like that as much as they used to. And so we pick up a handful of soil and we see the whole kingdom of living, the 5 kingdoms of living things. The 3 fingers that I hold up represent the things that you can see. The plants, the animals, and the fungi, at least some of the fungi you can see. The other 2 parts of my palm here represent the basal part are those one-celled organisms that we cannot see, and they do not have nuclei. They do not have an organized nucleus with a DNA in it. They have DNA scattered throughout the cells. But they represent life as it occurred billions of years ago, and they still are here with us, helping us to survive. We need to know what they are out here in Tandy Hills. No one is studying the Fort Worth Prairie area to find that out. The other layer here below these 3 sticking up, below the ones that we can see readily, are those one-celled organisms that do have a nucleus. They have their DNA organized into a nucleus. We cannot identify all of them. Those are the fungi, the one-celled animals, all of those little rotifer things, the amoeba. They're all down there working where you are standing or sitting, and they're doing you a lot of good. But we don't know what they are. We need to learn more about the interactions of this Tandy Hills Fort Worth Prairie, so that, and we cannot afford to lose any of it, because the smaller these prairies and these original areas of vegetation and land get, the more difficult it is for all of those connections to occur. And so over here, as you walk through the prairie, or as you walk through the grass, or walk through the woods, remember that there are many, many unknown things going on in there. You may be able to name a lot of the wildflowers or the trees, or even the animals and some of the insects. You see a rabbit running, or a possum, or an armadillo. You can tell what those are. But remember that the basic part of that prairie, of that forest over in East Texas, or the desert in West Texas, is the thousands, millions of species of microorganisms that interact with each other, with higher plants, with higher animals. The fungi get into the roots, for example, of the grasses, the native grasses here. They all have a fungus, a different kinds of fungi associated with them that helps them absorb the minerals that they need from the soil. And the grasses, especially the prairie grasses, the native prairie perennial grasses, they grow year after year after year, but each year their root system dies, and but they still have underground stems of some kind, and from those stems new roots grow out. These new roots are invaded by these fungi. The roots are able to then absorb the phosphates that are essential for their living and for our living. And so the prairie, the Tandy Hills Prairie must be saved, because first of all, we don't know what's going on for sure out there, and second, our grandchildren and great-grandchildren and my great-grandchildren right here with us today need to be able to eventually learn those things and to learn to appreciate the greatest complexity that we know of in the world and in the universe, as a matter of fact, right here across the street. That's where life is that we need to know more about. Thank you.
Do we have any more speakers, Don? I guess we're going to have some more music and everybody can go from the air. The most noticeable thing that you see from the air, of course you see roads, you see houses and buildings and things like that. The thing that jumps out at you are the 5-acre scraped bare land patches of gas wells. It's like a person that's got a bad case of the chicken pox, or whatever you want to say. But these are currently, before they did that, they were vibrant, living, natural areas. When they put in these gas wells, they scrape it down to the bare rock, and as my father mentioned, it takes thousands, if not millions of years to get the topsoil back and to get the ecosystem back there. And we're doing this on a massive scale in north central Texas. All you got to do is take a trip in the airplane on a nice clear day and you'll see what I'm talking about. And we have another speaker.